Get that ready once we're.
That's interesting. Community Center Public Network could not be joined.
Oh, no, are you?
Well, maybe now it looks like maybe it did.
We've been having a ton of internet issues, so happy to offer up my
Well, I
hotspot
could
if you
just
need
buy
it.
if I need to.
Yeah, we've been having a ton of issues here,
I
unfortunately.
never use it, so.
It looks like it's working for me.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Okay.
It was a glitch, I guess. Smells like ink in here.
Is it maybe
Oh,
this
it's
lotion I
probably
put on?
lotion.
Sorry, it's
Don't
like
it
a
smell
weird
like-
grandma-y lotion
You know
that's
that
in
ink
my bag.
smell? Like that,
Yeah.
you know, that.
Yeah, it's
like
a lotion.
a ballpoint pen.
Sorry. Very dry, and so I was like, break out the weird lotion.
It's been dry.
Yeah.
All I could smell was popcorn walking in.
Yeah. I don't know why, what.
We should have grabbed, we should have just grabbed a bag and brought it up with us.
Oh, there's water here, perfect. I meant to grab my water. Is it Dune that's like a catch-up tonight from when it was canceled?
Oh.
Is that what it is?
Could be.
She did say it was Dune, yeah.
Oh, okay, it was doing not even on the
Yeah.
side.
So it's usually not on Thursday.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, you know, I don't know that I wanna watch Dune here.
We saw it in IMAX.
Yeah, I saw it like on the Dolby Extra Special
Like with the sound.
projector. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's like a Dolby Vision Atmos, Dolby Atmos, which I actually have on my TV here, but
Oh, cool.
it's not out on streaming yet.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I saw it place in it's called like Flatiron, it's 12 or something like
Like
that.
in Broomfield,
Yeah. Bloomfield Superior, I'm not really sure exactly which.
somewhere over in the towns that all.
Yes. Nearest Costco, that's how I assume know.
It's
It's,
probably Broomfield, by the mall. There's like.
it's by the mall,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Although, you know, it's like not being able to pause a movie to go to the bathroom or something is really annoying.
Well, and the new one is like 2 hours and 45 minutes.
It's really long.
And I was like, okay, do I have everything I need? We're sitting like right in the middle of the theater and I was like, do I have everything I need to not be the person to get up?
Well, you know, knowing the story from having read the books, I sort of was like, okay, I think I can go to
Okay.
this.
Like you would kind of know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
although, you know, it's a lot different.
yeah. I had a partner just.
Should I close that?
Read the first times.
They're gonna
Just
start the
like
movie at
section
7.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, I don't
The
think
last one I've
it
been-
was very good. I didn't, well, you know, I probably read it a long time ago. I didn't really like 2 that much. 3 was better. 4, I think, is the second best.
Okay,
And then 5 is okay too.
yeah.
Yeah.
They just came in the mail today. He was trying to find some with like cool cover art that weren't like thousands of dollars.
Find that.
He still paid way more than he should have. I'm excited to read this.
They're actually, I think, the Dune itself, audiobook on Audible, I think is really good.
Okay,
I don't read books.
Who do we have on?
I'm an audiobook person. I'll just like get them in the library and.
No one,
1, 2, 3. So we don't have enough.
Do we have anyone online?
not at the moment.
Okay. So the snow's mostly melted, it seems.
Yeah.
Although I had these huge piles in my driveway.
We still have just as much as we did.
Well,
It's not-
like the place where you have to put the snow when you follow my driveway is like in the shade of my garage.
Yeah.
So it like stays there forever.
That was the issue at my old house, is that the whole driveway was in the shade and it was in the place where the wind drifted all the snow to.
You know, I
Right,
have,
and then like 10 feet over, up the hill a little bit from the driveway, it would blow clear.
I have this horrible, horrible snowdrift that goes right at the opening of my driveway. And sometimes, I mean, it's been 8 feet tall from time to time, and
Yep,
I think I wanna try to put up a snow fence or something. I just don't know how to do it. I mean, I know how to put up a snow fence, I don't know where to put one.
yeah, we tested a million things and just gave up because none of them worked. Basically, you wanna put it where you want the snow to go.
Right. And then the problem is where I really want the snow to go
But that
is up
doesn't-
against my regular fence. And then I would have a huge snowdrift that my dog could just walk over.
Yep,
So,
that's the other issue though.
although I think I wanna put an internal fence in my yard to keep my dog away from the street.
Uh-huh,
Because what she does is she goes, anytime anyone walks by with a dog especially, she barks and jumps up on the fence, and she could easily just go over it if she wants. I think it's actually pretty scary probably for people walking their dogs.
yeah,
So I wanna put a fence to
Definitely.
keep her away from the fence.
yeah, that's nice of you.
Well, I also don't want her jumping over the fence and getting in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah, I just mean compared to other people I see around town. That's quite courteous of you.
Well, you know, it happens to me too.
Uh-huh,
There's a few dogs around the neighborhood that do that.
yeah, and with my current dog, I don't worry at all, but the dog I had before was 125 pounds, so he weighed more than me. He was quite aggressive on the leash, right? If he
Yeah.
was off leash, he was fine, but if he was on a leash, he was super aggressive. And we had incidents where others people's dogs would run up to him and he'd bite at them.
Yeah, that's. a big
And
problem.
their dog gets hurt, and it's, our dog is the problem, but our dog was on a leash, and he would do it through fences and stuff like that too.
Well, she barks really loud when other dogs come around.
Yeah,
It's, you know, I can control her, but, yeah, when people are
what she
off
thinks she's
leash,
supposed to do.
the only time I've ever let her off leash up here is sometimes I've gone up to Caribou in the
Yeah.
early morning and I'm the only car parked up there.
Yeah.
So I figure if I'm the only car parked up there, I can be safe in letting her off the leash.
Yep.
But that's the only time.
Yeah, up in Big Springs, those trails back there, a lot of people walk their dog off leash back there, and I lived up there, so I'd walk mine off leash too. But I did have one lady that I ran into that she was running. And so he was on the trail ahead of me and he didn't like do anything vicious, like he didn't run up to her. But she had trauma with dogs and so she like yelled at me for like having my dog off leash and I'm like, I get it, but he's also a husky and so like. I have this part of me that's like, it's almost cruel to make him be on leash every single time I take him out everywhere. And so there's gotta be some sort of balance where like I assume some risk and I understand that risk that I assume in letting him off leash. And there should be places that I can
I once,
do that.
I once had a dog attacked by another dog on leash.
Yeah,
Sometimes that's worse because some of the,
Exactly.
they feel more threatened when they're on their leashes.
It was like a narrow part of a trail. I think it might have been the 4th of July trail before I even moved up here.
mm-hmm,
And, it was like this narrow part in the trail and it was me and this other dog.
yeah,
And this dog went after my dog. I essentially just jumped on top of my dog
mm-hmm,
to keep the other dog from getting to her.
yeah.
But he had, or she had gotten to her first. And these people just like adopted this dog from like the animal shelter.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and, you know, I gave them my address and everything. They wrote me like a letter, tried to send me a check, and I just wrote them back saying, I've had dogs like that.
mm-hmm,
Don't worry, but I did take her to the vet though.
yeah.
So it looks like it's Rab who brought you to the 4, but you were only ever gonna have 4.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know all that,
Yeah, it looks like Macy forgot to send us the breakdown, so it looks
or
like,
else I
we
maybe
have-
would have canceled yesterday.
yeah,
Yeah.
you, Rich,
We
Rab,
talked about it.
and Maddie. Patricia and Alan never responded.
I say we wait another 5 or 6 minutes and then make a decision.
Yeah.
Didn't
Can-
seem like there was anything
No,
There's-
I wanted to talk about the pickleball.
Yeah, and I think it would be cool, and we can just chat about it right now too, I think, while we're waiting, cause it's nothing decision wise, but just to like go over that general town process of what projects come before SAB and when do we give our input, you know,
Yeah.
and just kind of review that process.
So what happened was I had gone to the ProSab meeting,
Yep.
to talk to them about the rights of nature thing.
Mhm.
And before, even though Miranda said I'd be first, they had public comment first.
Sorry, they normally never have any public.
They had
I
public-
never expect
They
anything.
had public comment first, and this neighbor of the tennis courts,
Mhm.
area, or, you know, skating rink, started talking about how she thought that the pickleball courts would have an impact on wildlife that, is present in that sort of forested area to the, south.
Cause they're expanding and making a separate area
Well,
for pickleball.
Because there maybe we would more pickleball, and pickleball is really noisy.
To the
Uh,
south,
Yeah, so to the south.
to the south would be like the development though, right?
No, there's like this, if you look at on Google Maps, there's this forested area to the south.
Like in between, like behind all the houses.
It's sort of like between, I guess it sort of would be between the, no, the houses are sort of to the south, but also to the, west. So directly south, there's like this forested area, it's sort of like between the Rex, that area and the elementary school.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's probably big enough to be.
Well,
That's wild.
she mentioned all kinds of wildlife that are in there, and, she also is like very close, and I think she's more worried probably about the noise that she would hear.
Yeah, the first
But
one.
when she started mentioning an impact on wildlife, I thought, it sounds like we would look at, so.
Yeah. I think it's tricky because we live in that, you know, urban wildlife interface where there's like the philosophical ideal of what we think should be, and then there's the reality of what we can achieve. So, I don't know. I don't know that it's a significant enough space.
Well,
Or does the seasonality of it so play into like,
she mentioned lots of different animals, including pine martens. And you know, I spend a fair bit of time in the summer and fall, and late spring in that sort of, forested area directly to the west of the elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And the only wildlife I think I ever noticed there have been the very, very occasional bird, moose, and maybe some mule deer, and that's about it. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot.
So we're talking about.
Is anyone ever gonna put up signs for Moose Meadows?
Yeah, they're working on it now.
So just do it.
Yeah, they're working on it now and they'll get it. They wanted to wait for the branding colors. So
Is
they
that
could-
your?
You know what they
Your
should,
little
they should do,
up there?
is change the name to John Smith Park. Because it's immediately adjacent, and just expand John Smith Park, and include that.
They were gonna name it after a woman, but then she later said like, no, she didn't want it named after her. So that was interesting.
Well,
Are we talking about going into Boulder County land?
no, I believe it is municipal, land. I think it even may be owned by the city. If you put it up on like with the satellite view. it's a
I
little bit
know.
more- Like, go to like just Google Maps.
I know, I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, I know, you're trying to get the flat, yeah. Mary, has there ever been any talk of redeveloping the propane tank?
Yes.
Yes.
Active going on
wanna
right
buy
now.
it.
We
We wanna buy it, we wanna buy it.
Nicole has been trying to work with
Between
people who own
Caribou
it.
Ridge Drive
Communication is pretty
and Shoshone Way.
spotty,
I think
but
that
Nicole's trying.
that area, I mean, I don't know if it's big enough, would be a fantastic place for a hotel.
Agreed.
With the
So-
view, the reservoir,
This is
Yeah.
the current rink.
and then right that area right there.
Okay, is that also part of the park?
It was, I
Open
believe they
space,
said it was, yeah, city open space.
Open space, Indian Peaks. As amended by Indian Peaks at Netherland replat. So was that part of the Caribou Ridge Development Agreement, I wonder?
I don't know, so what is called Moose Meadows now was called Indian Peaks Open Space. It's probably part of the same original property.
Yeah. It goes all the way around, all the way down to where School Road meets it.
That area, that green area up north of there is
Yeah,
Moose Meadows.
okay.
You know, I have seen moose in there, but I've seen many more elk.
Yeah,
Well, I think,
well, it's Moose Meadow is, I think, a done deal. That had a SAP vote. SAP vote and all.
Yeah, board vote, we didn't vote on it.
I mean, a pro SAP, sorry. That's
Yeah,
where I am.
but
I'm with SAP right
The
now.
town board must have
I
voted.
don't know where I am. No, that was a pro SAP only decision. It doesn't have to go to the board.
is,
Trustees.
is the idea of expanding that area, because I know there's user conflict issue, is the idea that pickleball will be available in its own area year round?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was texting people to get onto your meeting, but I don't think you're gonna get them.
You were still at the pickleball.
Sure, yeah, so the intention is to move the pickleball, I'm sorry, move the tennis courts to the upper northwest corner. Because they need a different orientation. They need a south. No, I'm not an expert here. A
This-
north-south
yeah.
orientation for
Yeah.
tennis.
Oh, sure.
Pickleball will stay where it is. Permanent curb so that we don't have to deal with flipping of the boards. The only reason I have to pull the boards is for tennis. So we
Yeah.
wouldn't have to deal with the boards. And then we want to put a roof over it so that the ice can last
So
longer.
pickleball's not moving, it would be
Correct.
tennis that's.
Correct.
The
And
fear
so-
is there'd be a lot more pickleball.
Right.
And maybe different surface, same surface.
Well, I mean, they basically shot blast the surface, so pretty much the same surface.
We really have a number of people up here that are playing pickleball.
Yeah, but
Oh,
the
yes.
pickleball team are way more of like an inside
Yes.
crew. So we actually don't see a ton of pickleball on the outside. That's tennis
A
is
lot
much
of
more
them here.
active
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they play pickleball here.
It'd probably also be like a destination for people to come, like how people come up and skate too, like.
For
Let's
sure.
go play pickleball.
I think there,
Yeah.
maybe, but I do think that there are a lot of pickleball courts, if that's what you call them, down in Boulder.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
totally.
Uh,
for sure.
And I'm not really sure, I mean, it's not like there's a great view from, that area, there's trees that block any
Yeah,
view,
yeah.
so. I could see like if you're gonna look at mountains or something and playing pickleball.
Yeah, yeah, so, but right now things are kind of on hold, like, we really need to kind of evaluate as a group, you know, we can't get funding for the building, and so we also can't get funding to just kind of redo the park. Basically, GoCo was like, we already funded you for this park, so we're not gonna keep funding you. It has to be pretty transformational for GoCo to wanna fund it, and that's where the building came in, but GoCo doesn't fund buildings, so
this
we
is-
would need
you're
to,
asking Boulder County itself to fund?
no, Great Outdoors
Oh,
Colorado.
Great Outdoors Colorado.
And
a
so they
lot of-
won't, right, they won't fund it kind of without a building, because then it just seems like deferred maintenance to them. But with the building, we have to cover the building. And
Isn't a
so,
building a lot of deferred maintenance?
oh, the buildings just have to come down. I mean, those are really dilapidated sheds. at
But
this-
a new building would, you'd have to do maintenance on it.
Yeah.
so.
Right, but that's, I mean, GoCo won't ever fund buildings, so we have to come up with a way to fund our own building. And so that group is working together, but that group also has some very challenging historical dynamic issues. So we actually have a mediator involved to try to get them on the same page.
Wait, with the pickleball?
The
group?
Rink Group and Mountain Tennis Pickleball Association.
And you said tennis would go in the north?
North, yeah,
Like on the corner of the,
like you drive into the lot, you
So
know.
that wildlife corridor though, that has been there and has classically been there is not gonna be impacted.
The impact that was.
These are undeveloped properties and gonna be $3 million homes, and that's much more of an impact than any extra tennis court in my mind.
Well, the impact was pickleball so noisy.
Right.
Uh-huh. I
And I
understand,
think I have read about pickleball,
yeah,
where it's being somewhat of a nuisance for nearby residents.
yeah,
And so I think she's in one of those two houses there that are right to the right of, no, not
Bunch
one
of
of these guys here.
Mm.
Yeah,
yeah.
so, or maybe that third house, but she's one of those houses. And I'm sure she doesn't want her, peace and quiet disturbed by a pickleball court.
No, she doesn't.
And I wouldn't want my peace and quiet disturbed by a pickleball.
I mean, we do have a real issue with NIMBY in this town that is, I don't know if it's something we want to try to address, but it's frustrating because that's how environmentalism gets a bad name, you know?
Well, I guess we'll see how it is with this vote on the, pump track.
Yeah, I'm real curious to see
Yeah.
what the result of people's vote is.
And what about that property behind the post office? That seems like a prime property.
The Hoyles bought it.
When did that happen?
Oh, last year?
Oh.
And they're looking at housing,
Yeah,
large
and,
scale
and
house
so
development.
nothing was like deeded or trusted into that land, huh? Okay.
No,
If-
so he's looking at, affordable housing units, mix all housing.
Yeah.
He's not really interested in anything commercial. All housing with a sprinkling of kind of affordability.
Yeah, I'm not really sure that would be a good spot for commercial
That's kind of how
because
he feels, yeah.
we've got downtown and,
It's too close to like the neighborhood. So he's looking purely at a commercial, but it's a little over 2 acres. So he could do quite a bit on there.
I guess they could do that sort of, commercial on the first floor.
Yeah, he could do mixed use, but he's really interested in just solely doing, housing units.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would also be a great spot for a hotel.
I don't think he wants to do a hotel.
Yeah.
He wants to house local residents.
I guess maybe, is it that the, propane people don't want to move and reestablish the propane?
My understanding, yeah, I mean, they get rent. They're making a lot of rent from AmeriGas, so why would they
Oh,
kick out
Amerigas doesn't
AmeriGas?
Own it.
No, AmeriGas has a lease on it,
Yeah.
and because of the value of land in this area, AmeriGas is hesitant to give up their lease
Yeah,
so that they can sell it, because part of their internal policies is we hang on to land, we hang on to these lots, even if they're not being used, just because it's gonna be less expensive in the future in case we have to reopen it or whatever.
So how long is their lease? Does anyone know that?
so it actually ended and they renewed it,
Yeah.
even though we attempted to try to intervene earlier, but were unsuccessful in doing so.
Oh,
That was
That
like
ended last
20.
July of last year, I think.
Okay, cause I'm talking about the first time then,
Oh.
probably 10 years before.
Oh,
that.
yeah, no, they definitely had a lease
11
until
years
last year,
ago.
but they're still there, so, I mean, I guess
So I was
that's
thinking
kind of
2012 we went
speculatory,
through
but
that.
they're still there, so clearly their lease didn't end.
Yeah, so every 10 years or so, we come back up on around it and try to get to the property owners. Last time that I knew, it was the young girl of the family that had inherited the land and was
Yeah,
like,
they live in Arizona.
I want nothing to do with this conversation.
seems like a waste. of
Nicole is
time.
has been trying,
Yeah.
but she's not been able to make any huge headway.
Yeah, it
I
is.
know, it is.
It is.
Agreed.
Great view.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, ProSat put in a letter of inquiry to GoCo, and GoCo said no on the rink project.
We were running full grant, actually, and we were told that they would fund a building. And then in the final hour, we're like literally getting ready to submit.
Yeah.
They go, oh, we don't fund buildings.
So it sounds like.
And we were like, what? And so we pulled it at the last minute, but we're going full steam ahead.
Is it a dead issue then?
No,
Okay.
because GoCo was like, you can come back to us with a full, so now it's more of a recreational corridor thing of like trail connectivity, and it has to be a lot more because we can't just do the moving of the courts. They will fund a roof, so we think the roof will help.
Mhm.
So we still want to go for GoCo, but we also need the two groups to agree. They don't agree about a lot of stuff, and so we need them to
The
get on the same.
pickleball and the ice skating
Correct.
people?
We need them to get on the same
Why
page.
would they have a
They
conflict?
have a lot of historical issues, people to people issues.
But it's not like you can have the ice
They're
rink.
opposite seasons.
Yeah,
Yeah, but like though,
When you have
like if they
designs.
poured a curb now, it would impact tennis.
Yeah.
And so until tennis can move, tennis really doesn't want them to do any like even temporary maintenance
Okay.
because that will hurt them. And Rink's adamant about pouring the curb to hold the ice. And so there's a lot of just like back and forth of what needs to happen now. Because GoCo, who knows if we'll ever get a GoCo grant?
how many people play tennis?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really have a pulse on, I mean, definitely from
Handful.
for why we took it over as town, we took those assets over was because Rink makes good money and we need the Rink money to float the parks budget.
Mhm.
The parks budget was created just purely because we took that asset over because we knew it was a revenue stream for us.
Yeah.
So what was it before it was, the city took it over?
It was, so town owned the land, but the nonprofits ran it.
Oh,
So we took over and took it over, and so we're gonna run this thing, because we want the revenue from it.
so there's money made from skating.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah,
Do they rent?
and that's what created the Parks Department. We wouldn't have a Parks
They
Department
rent
if it wasn't for
skates, they
that.
sell hot cocoa,
Oh, okay.
they
Yeah.
do events.
To use the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can rent it for parties and stuff.
Huh?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Disco night.
But the
sure
season
the
like
neighbors
this year
want
without a roof,
That's what I was
we
thinking.
open later than we've ever opened and we close earlier than we've ever closed because
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
couldn't keep the ice.
Yep. And it's been a
So warm.
continuingly, increasingly bad issue as we deal with.
Like that roof is such a, yeah,
Change.
so needed.
Yeah.
That roof. So now it's just kind of at the drawing board, and whether we even go for a GoCo grant, I have no idea. But like again, the kind of the need for mediation between those groups is the priority right now to get them on
They can't
ideally the
converge
same.
into one group.
Oh, they would
Who
never.
has the authority for the final say? Is it?
We do, we're trying to work with them, but yes, there will get to a point where we just say, you know, we don't care what you have to say, we're gonna do our own thing anyways. But that doesn't help us, because we need them to help us fundraise, and
Right.
we really need the
And
group.
them to volunteer to help maintain and work it all.
There's nothing to gain if we're like, screw it, it's all us, yeah, there's nothing to gain out of that, but this has been tough, like the issues between these two groups are just so rooted in decades
Mm-hmm.
of stuff that
Mhm.
we had no idea, and so then we kind of inherited it, and we were like, whoa. This is a lot to unpack right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no one that's part of both groups.
Not really.
Not anybody that's a reasonable person.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been tough.
Reasonable people seem to be in short supply out here.
Right.
Mm.
I don't know what something in the
Yeah.
water is.
Well,
People
you know, I
tell
think
me.
part of it,
Some of that mining, there's something in the water, makes y'all crazy.
we're a small enough community
It's fair.
that
It's crazy.
you
Our
can-
way. There's no mine water.
we're a small enough community that you can sort of have the whole community in this one Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, you have a lot of communication
Mm-hmm.
for the whole community in this one Facebook group
Mhm.
that you just wouldn't have for other
Mm-hmm.
places. You couldn't have that for Boulder. I mean,
Except for you compound the issue because there isn't just one Facebook group.
Yeah.
There's been so many people kicked out of NetHeads for being controversial that's why Kathleen Chipeye started Ned Talk. And that's why Cheryl Finelli started Netherland Area News.
but does anyone use?
So you have Rab online, I
Yes.
just realized,
All the
sorry.
people that were kicked
I
off
had
of
this
NetHeads and are
closed.
not
Rab, I
on
didn't even
NetHeads.
realize you were there, and May Gerald's here.
Oh, so we're
Sorry, I had it
here?
closed. You can officially start your meeting.
Start our meeting. Excellent.
Wonderful.
I didn't, what does it take to get kicked
Sorry, I
off?
had spoken up earlier. I've been here for a little while, but
The screen
good to catch
minimized.
up on the town gossip, I guess.
Heard all that good stuff. Rab is here.
Welcome. So we will call the meeting to order at 7:09 PM. And we were kind of talking just about the rink project and where it's kind of at in the process. And so ProSab sounds like they're trying to works through some things with the grant, to figure out how to get a good application before GoCo with what, bathrooms, because they're allowed to have bathrooms, but not like a big building.
Correct, yeah, so, yeah, maybe I'll just repeat it just really quick since we've got everyone now, is that, yeah, the intention was, even when we took over this asset, the intention always was that we would go for a GoCo grant to kind of reimagine the space, to improve the space. We're full steam ahead on a GoCo grant, which would move the tennis courts to the north side, the northwest side, allow us to kind of pour a curb that would allow us to maintain ice for longer. The original phase that we were going for actually did not include a roof at the time, but included a very large building. So we're, full steam ahead, we're getting ready to apply, and then we're told GoCo doesn't fund a building, even though all prior meetings had told us otherwise, that GoCo did in fact fund buildings. So we, in essence, had to kind of start from scratch. And so that's where we're at. Throughout the process, unfortunately, all the groups weren't really on the same page. So we're really just focusing on that, getting people on the same page, hoping to resubmit. And when we resubmit, it'll be a smaller scale building because we're going to need to fundraise for that on our own. And then a roof, which would be funded by GoCo, bathrooms can be funded by GoCo, as well as a trail connectivity system that would connect the rink tennis pickleball courts around, you know, ideally up to actually where the Wildberry Nature Center would be, like through that whole open space area. So, more to come. We don't even know what the GoCo grant cycle is. We think maybe the first one will open and be able to be, in place by, the July, August timeframe, but once we know more, I'm happy to bring it back to you, but I guess even then, like, I don't really have designs, like, I only have old designs that I linked to in your agenda, so you can see the kind of the old stuff, but I wouldn't even say that's the current plan. Plans are a little bit unknown at this moment, but Rich actually brought this forward because at ProSab, one of the neighbors came forward and they're just very concerned about the noise. Concerned about additional tree removal. You already have a bunch of down trees anyways over there. So she really wanted to know, like, what are going to be the protecting mechanisms to prevent noise? And so that's something we have to look into and something we've always committed her and the neighbors that we would evaluate. We're just not there yet to do any sort of review of what's going on that part. Like, we're just not at a place where we can design yet because we need to get the groups on the same page.
So
Go ahead.
my thought maybe is, once we get farther, if you could give us an update and also if there's, especially if there's community, that's, impact the environment and wildlife and things that are sort of at war, of our area, and we can look at it then. But I think that if the public is complaining about sort of an environmental impact of something the town is going to do, I think that's something we should at least consider is whether we want to have a position.
Yep. Great.
Is there, since the designs are old, so I assume for the next grant cycle, part of that would be some sort of redesign to update based on revised needs?
Yeah, so, but we only ever wanted to submit kind of concept and allow those environmental studies to be done under the GoCo grant. So there was no, yes, there was no intention of ours. Okay. Yes.
That environmental study would be done as part of the design process
Mhm.
for the development. So like
Yeah.
a lot of those concerns would be addressed.
Yeah.
Once a consultant or someone is on board too.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have the financial means to do it ahead of time, which does make it tricky. I mean, you all know, you know, when projects aren't shovel ready, their ability to be funded lessens.
Yeah.
But we just don't really have the financial means to do those assessments now. The board may choose to want to prioritize that in the future so that we can fund that maybe a little better shovel ready. But yeah, right now we're hoping to wrap it all together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have a member of the public?
You do. You have May on. I don't know if May wanted to give any sort of public comment.
Apparently not.
May, if you'd like to give a comment on the rink project, feel free to speak up.
Yeah, hi, I'm enjoying the conversation, but I'll pass on this one. Glad y'all are working on it.
Great. Is that project also something that would complete the checklist? The sustainability?
That's what I'm wondering, because you guys submitted something to GoCo, and that's what I was trying to understand, like, where were you guys at in that process?
Never actually ever submitted.
Okay.
We were
It
like,
was
we
just
were literally,
conversations
and that was
back
like,
and forth.
our pretty aggressive pledge campaign, our letters of support campaign. Because one thing GoCo said was like, how do we know you have community buy-in? I was like, well, we do. But so we ran this campaign. And then after the grant, actually, they said, go out there and do another survey that just says, if you could do anything with this space, what would you want to do? To basically prove that it wasn't just 3 groups deciding this was the best thing for it. Like, community members do want to see longer, you know, use of the rink and things like that. And so I think that was, we got a lot of feedback, but I don't know. Our GoCo grants manager was inconsistent in her communication with us. We felt like the rug got pulled out from under us. Like, there's a video, we recorded all of our sessions with GoCo, and like, you can see me and Nikki being like, what? Like, what do you mean we can't fund a building now? And for 6 months, that's all we've been working on.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just this like total bait and switch.
Yeah.
That was frustrating for us. So.
Yeah.
You know, and GoCo, to be honest, may not be the right funding stream for that project.
Yeah.
Again, be honest, but it may not be the right funding structure.
Yeah, I mean, there is a reason that it was its own nonprofit for a while and some of the, other funding sources they had access to doing that.
Agreed.
Interesting.
Yep.
Did someone want to say something or was that a sneeze?
I think that was rap, maybe a cough of raps, but.
Yeah, I
But-
was a cough. I wasn't quick enough on the mute button.
But yeah, I think this would go through the scorecard then, once you guys have a proposal of some sort, a design
Okay.
that you're submitting to GoCo. Right?
Or like once you get the grant, you can start redesign.
Okay.
At some point.
All right. You want me to chat about the other one? The
Yeah.
animal ordinance? So the keeping animals ordinance, as we call it, history of this. A couple years ago, the Board of Trustees, 2022, the Board of Trustees were contacted by some residents who were really concerned about the Keeping Animals Code, felt like it needed to be amended. The code wasn't always clear, and so in many ways, we had to default back to state statutes to determine whether a certain animal type was allowed, because we didn't have, all of the adequate definitions. And so just kind of a lot of inconsistency. So these town residents reached out and said that they wanted to see the code amended. The BOT ultimately decided that sure, they would look into the animal code, but kicked it over to the planning commission to form a subcommittee to really look at, how to assess whether there should be really any zoning limitations for animals to ensure their health and safety. So the planning commission committee was formed, but unfortunately, kind of through the years, different iterations. So the first committee was Mayor Billy, who was a commissioner at the time, Commissioner Cornell, and Cynthia Baki and myself. When Billy moved to mayor and Cynthia left, it became myself, Britt, and Mike Dye. And so we've been working on this thing off and on over the last 2 years. Got to a point where it was kind of ready to go to the planning commission over about a 5-month span. We kind of brought it to the planning commission a couple times, but ultimately about a 6-month span. In November, they felt like the ordinance I put in the chart or in the packet was at a place that they were ready to kick it to the Board of Trustees. Originally there was just a full repeal and replace. The planning commission didn't like that. We scaled back and we just started amending it. So you can see the red lines. I included it so you can see all the changes we made. But really the changes were kind of focused on what types of animals are allowed, especially this kind of large hooved livestock, what is allowed, making that a clean, clear list. So if it's not listed, it's not allowed. Health and sanitation guidelines, what kind of requirements in terms of zoning, what kind of square footage do you need to have an animal? And so those things went forward. When we brought it to the Board of Trustees, though, I think the general sentiment was they didn't like it. They didn't like the changes. I don't think they were happy with the direction it was going. My kind of take on that is it's really hard because one board gave us direction back in 2022, but a different board is evaluating this 2 years later. And there will be a different board evaluating it when we finally bring it back. And so we got a lot of feedback from the Board of Trustees, but I would argue even they were split. Like some wanted this code more kind of dialed in, a little bit clearer. Some wanted it a bit more vague. I mean, it was just a bit all over the place. So we walked away from that meeting feeling like we need to sit down with animal control. At the time in which we drafted this, we didn't have animal control. So you see that we reference code enforcement a lot. Well, that's not going to work anymore. So we've sent it to animal control. We're set to meet with them at the end of the month to get their feedback. We'll start to integrate their feedback and then bring it back to the new Board of Trustees and say, where do you want to go? But when I bring it back to the new Board of Trustees, my first question is, do you even want to amend this thing anymore? Because again, that was a very different board who decided they wanted to amend it. And this new board may say, you know what, the code is fine. I just want, this section to be a little stronger. And perhaps it's not kind of a full repeal and replace type situation. So I hate to say 2 years a little bit lost, but I'm at a place where I'd like to just seek brand new instructions from a new board to say, what do you want to do with this thing? Instead of trying to keep doing this really piecemealed approach. So that's really where we stand right now. Melody had asked us to bring this, and so, you know, by no means is this at any place of being adopted. And then again, I have no idea what the new board is going to want.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason I wanted to bring it to us, I kind of had two main points that I felt like were relevant to this board and that maybe we should weigh in on. One is it talks a lot about keeping of manure and how to keep the space clean, et cetera, but never once does it talk about keeping manure next to a water source.
Mm.
And so I think that there are important environmental factors that probably have been overlooked, just because of the way this came together by a bunch of people just searching other municipalities and nobody that's necessarily an expert. So I am happy to have animal control weigh in on it. And then the other thing, which I think animal control will be a big part of, is that in a lot of places, animal abuse, animal cruelty, things like that are criminal. But all of this is a civil code. And so I think it's worth a discussion of where does that cross the line into criminal territory? Especially we live in Boulder County. I know people are really passionate about,
Yeah.
about that.
And maybe
So,
just to speak on that, to Melly's point, before we had animal control, they weren't touching this thing.
Yep.
They were doing nothing with animals.
Yeah.
And all the calls were going to Britt. And we thought, you know, I had yet to hear in the time we had law enforcement, like we didn't really get a lot of animal calls. Well, turns out it was just a lot of not a lot of logged animal calls. Because when we ran the
Yes.
logs, we weren't seeing them.
yes.
Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of animal calls. So the impact on Britt, all hours of the day and night, she's getting calls in the middle of the night about barking dogs. And so not everything was being logged. So we didn't have the data to really prove that animal control was probably a necessary service from the jump of Boulder County Sheriff's Office. And so we went to the board in December and said, please add this on for 2024, because this isn't going to work. Because even when Britt gets a call, if there's a vicious dog, well, our team's not going out there. I'm not sending our staff out there. They're not trained.
No.
No one's there to respond at all. We basically just say, thanks so much, and we logged it on a spreadsheet. Like there was nothing, and to Melly's point, it's all civil, because Boulder County wouldn't enforce this code without paying for animal control.
So now we have animals,
And
we're getting tickets for.
Right, people can start getting criminal charges. If it escalates to that level, they could get criminal.
But our-
yeah,
Animal control
This-
is now set to enforce our code, and our code does not mention enforcement.
Well, some of these amendments don't. The current code does escalate and reference law enforcement. Because the current code talks about the marshal's office. So really plug in Boulder County where the marshal's office is listed. But when we rewrote this, we had to take out anything law enforcement related and add in code enforcement.
yeah, and I
This
think.
isn't a great code from that perspective.
I think part of it too is that while we had a certain code, we also had a very selective enforcement of pieces of that code.
Yeah.
And other pieces of the code were not enforced at all. And so now Boulder County Sheriff's Office is gonna come in and say, oh, you guys have a code, you want this enforced. But the people, I don't know if the people are gonna be ready for it, and that's why I'm a little concerned about
The new.
about the new code and how detailed and how specific it is that, like, luckily, I watched some guy cross the street in the middle of the night with his dog off leash, and the police officer was the one who pulled up to the crosswalk, and they let him go. They didn't do anything, and they drove on by, and I was like, okay, thank goodness. But I can imagine some rookie who doesn't know and doesn't understand, pulling over somebody because he's walking his dog home at 10 PM at night when there's no traffic, but he walks in front of the police vehicle and the police officer says, you're supposed to have a leash,
So
right?
it's so funny. So I actually was meeting with Sergeant Merriam today, and he hands me this one pager, and it's a leash laws.
Yeah,
He's like, you guys can post this if you want. And I was like, I'm not posting that anywhere. Because the thing about it is it's all about your dogs have to be on leash. But a large part of the BOT conversation was voice command and not necessarily wanting the leash.
having your
thing.
dog under your control doesn't have to be. on
Right.
leash.
And so I told Asa, I said, this one pager isn't gonna work. And so that's why meeting with I think her name was Janie. Meeting with Janie will be important of like, we can't just take these like flat Boulder County codes and give me a one pager about leash laws and then
Yeah.
me put it, I couldn't imagine putting this thing out into the world.
Mhm.
Because I could tell in our board of trustees conversations, it's really not what they wanted. But like, how do you capture that? Like, it's really like officer discretion. How do you capture that in
It is.
code? It's very challenging to do that. And so does the code go strict and then you have officer discretion, or is the code less strict, but then you have no officer enforcement. If they want to go to that level, there's nothing for them
Yeah.
to enforce. So
Well, and
it's tough.
honestly, I think my answer is different now that we're contracting with VCSO than it would have ever been before.
Sure.
If we had our own PD, I would have said, okay, put in some strict things
Yeah.
and we'll let Larry deal with it, right? But
Yeah.
without that, I'm hesitant to make it too strict.
Sure.
And I also think Jesse Severs brought up a good point at the BOT meeting too, is it leaves very little wiggle room for people who want to come up with new, sustainable, small scale creative solutions to actually do so within the code.
Yeah.
Can I point out an oddity that I see?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
If you look at page,
If it's a 5-6 thing though, I don't want to hear
if
it.
you look at
We went over
look at
that.
page 6, under section 7-97C1.
797. Okay.
It says it is unlawful for any person to keep, et cetera, any animal which is not a pet animal unless otherwise provided. Okay, so if you go look at the definition of animal, page 2.
Yeah.
First, animal means a pet animal, as that term, so there are no animals.
So pet animal,
Pet
there's
animal
pet
is
animal
down
definition.
Below.
No, there is a pet animal definition.
Yeah.
But the definition of animal
means-
only includes pet animals.
Yes.
So you're saying an animal other than, there aren't, there are no animals other than pet animals.
So we we reference domestic food livestock, which is horses, goats, and llamas.
If you look though, yeah, but what I'm saying,
But then there's a whole section.
if you have some kind of
I hear
weird,
what, until I hear what you're
some
saying. Yeah.
weird
Yeah.
animal that they don't want people to have.
Yep.
That's not livestock.
Yep.
It's going to be allowed because the only animals, there are no animals prohibited under that section. Because the term animal is limited to pet animals, and this says any animal other than a pet animal. So it's,
Yeah.
so in other words,
Conundrum
it's,
within
there's a
itself.
word for it, but I can't remember. what
Okay.
it is.
Yeah.
But I know, yeah.
And also, even if it wasn't.
Yeah.
If animal was just the general term animal, other than a pet animal, that would prohibit beekeeping, I think. And I don't think they want.
I think that's, as a member of this subcommittee, as a witness, I would say.
It does not
For
say.
the subcommittee,
in-
that was the hardest thing. It was
It
like,
does not say.
are we
insect.
going to literally define every single animal and how do you even think of it?
Insects are not in any of the definitions.
Right.
so-
But they are part of the animal kingdom.
Yep.
Right, so I think the end decision was that if it's not listed, it's not allowed.
Well, and so that's my other thing about it being strict is like, okay, so you're telling me I can't raise 5 quail and kill them in my backyard? Like,
Yeah.
but I can do it 5 chickens, right? But quail are smaller, less damaging to the environment. Like, so there's
Yeah.
issues with how specific yet strict this code is for me.
And
You
one
can
of
have
the
chickens, hens, turkeys, and ducks, but you can't have guinea fowl.
Right, I think what's
You know,
interesting
but-
though is at one point in time in the board meeting, they referenced, so Boulder County has a chart that animals are units and based on the square footage of your lot, you can have X amount of units of animals. And I would argue that's just as strict. Because now you're saying,
Yeah,
okay, your
I
parcel's only this
agree.
big, you can have only these
I
many.
totally
But
agree.
when in 2022, we received specific guidance not to create a unit-based animal chart, because we didn't want to deduce animals to units. And
Yeah.
so to have 2 years later, basically being told, I like the unit chart, it's like, that's why my intention is to not really do much with this code, get animal controls evaluation and go to the board and say, what on earth do you want to do with this thing? And kind of stop in our tracks a little bit, because we just don't have the right guidance at this point.
The only thing I would say is, I have a neighbor that keeps bees and they don't bother anybody right in our area. And I don't want them to have to deal with like an overzealous rookie cop saying, doesn't say you can keep bees, therefore you're getting a ticket, you gotta get rid of your bees. And all of a sudden we're a national story
Yep.
on YouTube.
Yep.
Some outraged YouTubers
Yeah.
saying you can't keep bees here,
Yeah.
when I don't think that's the intent. So I think they should make it really clear, unless they want to prohibit bees, that keeping bees is not prohibited.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So more to come on that. But I think for me, again, just to reiterate, it's essential to get direction from this board. Because I can't keep rolling off of 2022 board expectations, and I also can't roll off of 2024 board expectations.
Nope.
Because the board that gave it to me a week ago is not the
Gonna be a
board that's gonna
different board
continue
that
forward.
will-
So,
Yeah.
I understand, Mayor Billy had been working on this, and it's say he doesn't win election. It was really important for him to have this conversation, but I just need to have like just a kind of a clean slate conversation with this new board, which we'll aim to probably do in May or June. at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, I think my general sentiment was like, it's a good effort. But there are things that are detailed and specific and regulated, and then other things that are entirely left out, like. Don't keep manure next to a water source, like all these people on Beaver Creek, like it should be in a pile that's at least X amount of feet away from the creek if it's not properly composting in some way,
Point.
Are any of those properties within the town?
No,
So,
no, but
Well,
we,
there's a couple on the creek. They don't currently have horses, but they could someday,
right, well, not under this code because it's mountain residential.
Well, but not necessarily because the BOT, that was one of the things that the current members were like, you can't have one goat. That's like
Right, so under even just the current code we have now, though, not even this new one, you can only have like this kind of large domestic livestock type thing
on an acre.
it's tough though. No, I think it's horses. The horses and llamas code limits to mountain residential, only, which is the acre.
Mhm.
But then you had the goats, which could be at the home, kind of that got a little bit of it
Mhm.
started
Mhm.
because it wasn't a part of the horse and llama code. It was a mess.
so if you have more than an acre, you can have a horse?
Mhm.
And if you're a mountain residential,
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so
it's a whole
Big
thing.
Springs. Is there anywhere else that's mountain residential?
Nope, pretty much Big Springs.
Yeah.
And like up maybe Kerry Ridge. I think that's mountain residential.
But none of those parcels are over an acre.
Right, I mean, a lot of Big Springs is not even an acre, like
No.
even though Big Springs mountain residential, minimum lot size an acre, though most of those were subdivided before that zoning code went in, so they're not even an acre.
Are all the people in like Lower Caribou with horses, they're mountain residential as well?
They're not in town.
They're Boulder County
Yeah,
on it.
sorry, that's where I was going with that.
Yeah, so they would be a part of Boulder County's unit structure.
Yeah.
Of like X amount of units, you can, depending on your lot size, you can have so many units of animals, and each animal is so many units.
Yeah.
It was like 40 chickens is one unit, 1 horse, 1 unit.
So I'm not mountain residential?
No, you are probably medium density.
Yeah,
So if I combine my lots, it's over an acre.
Right, but
you're
you're
probably the
still-
same zoning as my 616 square.
But
foot
you're
house.
still wouldn't be allowed because you're not mountain residential, even.
I
if-
should be high designated.
Under
My
current
my
code.
wife would like to have a horse.
Okay, well, she can't at the moment. Not with this code.
Like just outside.
By the law next to you. No. Um, any other SAB questions on animal ordinance?
I think whatever it is also should be, if things change, make sure that it's in alignment with the downtown development plans, if anything's gonna impact that as well.
Yeah.
Just like whatever the future of that is, make sure that this future animal ordinances don't conflict or prohibit.
Yep.
Any conflicts with that. Not that necessarily anything would change in that concept over there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I also wanted to take the opportunity to reiterate that I agree with the different comments on different types of fowl and other small livestock that are not explicitly defined and therefore not allowed. Also on the topic of dogs under voice control, but also for service animals, that has not been addressed. And there are some animals that can't perform their service while leashed because they're retrieving something, for example.
I thought I saw it in there, but maybe it's not clear, something where it says that service animals are not a pet. But that should be,
Yeah.
but
I
that's,
searched the whole document for the word service and it was not in it, but I didn't see it. So I might be wrong on that, but I tried.
yeah, it should definitely be clear that a service animal is separate than a pet. That's a working animal. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Okay, May, did you have any comments on the animal ordinance?
I do. Thanks for the opportunity. First off, Miranda, I wanted to clarify with you. It's always been a half acre per horse. And in my case, I have a half acre lot and I have a 1 acre pasture, which is why at one point I had a 3-horse permit. I believe the Planning Commission recommended removing medium density residential from the horse thing. I don't believe that's been voted on by the board. Has it?
I guess maybe if I'm understanding you, so I think, are you talking about the Board of Trustees conversation the other night? Or you're talking from back in the day? Because the animal ordinances hasn't been touched since 1996.
So why are you
But I'm-
saying it's 1 acre?
I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. Minimum, I was just looking at current code. Minimum is a half an acre. Sorry, I was mistaken.
Okay. So Rab, you missed it. I think this has been going on almost 3 years. But one of the letters I sent to the Planning Commission early on horses, and I heard my neighbor being discussed. She keeps her horses well off the creek. In fact, she's got some very rare plants along the creek. Her horse corral is set well back from the creek, and her manure pile is far from the creek. So I don't think anybody has to worry about horse people polluting waterways if they are a long time, interacting with nature. So I thank you for that clarification, Miranda. I do notice in the proposed new one, and I know you're going round and round about whether to leave the old one and whether you need to tinker with it. You have tinkered with it a little bit. Sometimes it almost seems like it's designed just for me. My half acre lot is just a little over half an acre. Now you're adding something, well, the half acre can't include the space for your house. So I've always invited people to come over to my place, check it out. My Billy came over and spent some time looking at the stall and the pasture where I take my horses out. So what I'd like Sab to weigh in on in a moment, if you would, is if you have any personal feelings about, horses should only be kept, in wide open spaces. I can tell you from a lifetime of being a caretaker of horses that it's not how much land you have, it's how you manage it. So in the case of my horses, they're not running around my entire lot because part of my lot is steep. They'd probably tear it up. They go to the pasture every day, weather permitting, where they can run and roll and play. So I don't see any reason to be changing that. And I wanted you guys to weigh in, but more than anything, since it is a sustainability advisory board, I'd love to talk to you guys about the opportunities presented by livestock. For example, my compost pile is by people for dressing their garden or that kind of thing. And I must admit, I've been a little bit lazy about working with the food pantry people. I worked some through one of their volunteers to get the compost over to them. But especially if the compost, there's a place where it can be managed, which is what I do now. I move it to another location and they manage it. But that person's not going to use all of it. So that is actually could be an opportunity for the town to save some money on dirt or fertilizer. It's a good fertilizer because it's not as hot as llama or chicken. And then here's another thing about the compost pile that may grab some of you that are fishermen. In the springtime, it is just alive with worms. You put a shovel in there and it's just crawling. So I wanted to encourage you guys to think about what opportunities might exist with the keeping of horses. And remind you, you know, that a lot of people make it a point to stop by my corner so that they can admire my horses. By the way, my horses are well past the life expectancy for horses. They're both 26 years old, and the bigger one, who's a large pony, has been here for 20 years. He's a 20 years, yeah, going on 20 years in October. So let me just check my list here. That was what I really look forward to hearing about. I can check through my old correspondence with the planning committee. If I remember right, the language pertaining to waterways is in the Larimer County animal ordinance, and I think that's valid. No, you don't put your corral on the creek. I mean, the old cowboys used to do that, but we're long past that. I would like to get your take on, you know, the space requirement. I'd like to see that the MDR be allowed to stay in as a use by right or whatever, given the other things are taken care of. Just because in the event of my death, sudden or not sudden, and I say, and my horses are still here, this is going to cause a real problem in the family to not be grandfathered in to. I don't really see any reason. I don't have the white rail it up to make it look good. That's on purpose. I've been around enough to know something like else wants. So my one final thing is your field here, but in the ordinance, I think is kind of town advisory. It's kind of equivalent to not grade, in which you know, the town can come in without announcing themselves, and it's still not clear whether they would come onto the premises, like with my horses, uh, to check for God knows what. But if there's a nuisance, I would think it would be, if it's an odor, it would be smellable from the road. If it's an eyesore, you could see it from the road. If it's a cloud of mosquitoes from my, you know, covered shaded water tank that gets cleaned once a week, you would see that cloud of mosquitoes. So I just urge you guys to think about what it means to have large animals in town. I think it's really great. And I think it offers us some opportunities. And I'm going to mute myself. I'll come back on if anybody has any questions or has never seen my ponies, doesn't know where we live. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much for your input.
Response to start with.
I have no response.
You know, I don't have a full understanding of what kind of space allowances that a specific horse needs. Like when I grew up, we did have horses, but we had like 15 acres. So it, you know, we had more than enough for our two horses. But that said, I think my general sentiment follows what Jesse Seaver said at the Board of Trustee meetings the other night, which is there are creative ways to make a little bit of space work. And at the same time, it is true that if you go pull a study on how much space you need for a horse in Nebraska, it's going to be vastly different than how much space you need for a horse in Washington, right? That climate and the amount of small little microclimates we have around here, like that little Caribou Valley that you're back in, are going to be vastly different as well, as far as what it can sustain. And then, like you said, there are creative ways to pull in extra resources if you do have a small space and make that work. And I think it's quite, I don't know, ironic that I believe the couple that had the goats, they were interested in being on SAB at one point. So the couple that had the goats, that's heart of this whole thing, were active in the sustainability of our community. They were trying to do this very sustainable thing. I saw their setup and I thought there was nothing wrong with it, but others thought that there was something wrong with it. So we're kind of all here because there was somebody trying to do something creative and sustainable, and it was shut down because of the issues that were brought up. So I don't know if that's clear picture of how I feel, but that's my general thoughts and sentiments.
You know, I'd love it if there was a goat hiring operation in town where I could get some goats over to my yard.
They were doing that.
We were trying to get some goats, yeah, for weeding, and that was an unsuccessful.
Yeah.
Can you apply for the homeowner wildfire mitigation grant to hire some goats?
Maybe.
I mean, I could hire them myself. I just don't know of any goat people up here that I.
No, if Leah was trying to work with Nikki to track down some goats for weed mitigation and could not find anyone who would bring their goats up here. I mean, we weren't necessarily paying. We just wanted them to bring them up and it's not
And
good.
hang out.
And hang out. That didn't go to me.
Eat things. Yeah, I mean, the rest of the world that is not the first world, you know, I know that's a classist term. Don't know what else to say though, but they live with animals on a daily basis, chicken, pigs, goats, everything in their houses with them. So I think there is room for creativity beyond what all the other communities in Colorado have done. And when I was in Vermont, actually, I was trained as a CSI, animal abuse investigator. So there's a whole, I mean, that we're talking about an agriculture community out there, right? There's a whole difference between your standard ag laws around animal abuse of a herd of cows and your laws about your guinea pig, you know, that's in your house, right? They're vastly different scenarios that needed to be treated vastly differently. And because we're not dealing with anything commercial, I don't know that we need to be as strict. We had a slaughterhouse or a feedlot or something like that. Yeah, I'd want strict laws on those guys, right?
With regard to the compost thing, I know I said I would go to the zero waste committee. Is that something that they could potentially work with? Like understanding what our compost resources or use could be? Just thinking about.
Yeah.
Some way to start the conversation.
Sure.
I don't know that I have any answers today, but I do think it was a good point. If there's like some sort of community resource for other folks who own livestock that have compost, I know the woman on Lazy Z who always posts for people's gardens and things like that, so.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I've seen people do it. It's
Yeah.
just kind of through word of mouth or through social media or newsletters, like Magnolia has a newsletter listserv or something like that.
Yeah.
And just giving it away that way. But every person I know that owns horses up here usually has more than they can give away and they end up having to pay to dispose some of it. So
Yeah.
Since we have 5 minutes left, maybe we should move on to our next items.
I mean, that was just an about, and we started
Almost 40 minutes later.
We
40?
started
I'm sorry, like
20.
30-ish, yeah.
25 or so, yeah,
Yeah.
All right,
minutes later.
so,
But
well, I can do the Guardian.
I mean, these,
update.
none of these updates should take very long, but go for it.
I went and talked to the POSAB about what we do and what our plans are.
Mhm.
Alan has been working on monitoring public information about what's going on at the Caribou mine
Mhm.
And Eldora.
and Eldora, which is looking to expand their water storage capacity.
Mhm.
That also might impact the town's water rights because it's the same watershed that the town takes from for our domestic water supply here. So, I would want to be really careful on that, saying anything, because there, who knows, there may be litigation between the, in the water court. There's always something going on in the water court. Other than that, I don't have anything from our subcommittee.
Any questions?
Public comment.
Yeah, on that, have we as a group reviewed the environmental impact assessment that has been performed by Eldora for those water retention basins?
I don't believe I've seen that, no. I don't know that they have one yet.
Okay, yeah, I think that there is one out there that's been published. And I'm pretty sure I skimmed it at some point a couple months ago. But yeah, I think that well, so I think I have opinions on Eldora's proposal. I think that I could be better informed for trying to make a public comment about Eldora's proposal, but you know, on the off the record kind of slant, I don't really have a problem with Eldora's proposal in terms of the long-term viability of the watershed. I think that they're talking about retaining a really small amount of water compared to the total that goes through the watershed, and that water is essentially recycled with maybe a 10% loss to evaporation every year. So that's my first take, at least, is that it doesn't seem like a big deal to the watershed as a whole, I should say, at least.
In a quick search, I can't find any environmental assessment
Is
yet.
it? I just found their submission. Is it somewhere in that like 44-page document? I haven't.
They probably did an EA, but not a full EIS yet, right? So they did the first kind of preliminary assessment, but they haven't done the full environmental impact statement that will show what, that's the thing that's required by the EPA is the EIS statement.
I don't think they would require an EIS on this one, though.
No, because it's not big enough.
And it's also not governmental action. So I don't think they would
Yeah.
require. I guess we should move to the next one. No one seems to have any other comments.
I got nothing on that. How's the zero waste subcommittee feeling after their last?
So I haven't met with them since we all met because they moved to quarterly. So we're set to meet in April, in which case then I'll bring back to them the desire to have them promote and advocate for the plastic bag and styrofoam ban and educate businesses on that. And so we'll talk about that when we meet next month. Maybe just the only thing is, so there's a Boulder County Economic Vitality Grant that comes out every year, and historically I've been just giving it to businesses and in a grant format, and they called me and they're like, you can't do that anymore. And I was like, all right, fine. But one of the criteria that they have is really this kind of climate related environmental. And I just thought this grant is perfect for what you've always been seeking funding for. You all been seeking funding since 2020 to be able to buy compostable or recyclable to-go materials or be able to give money to businesses who need to convert their products. And so I'm going for that. I got the green light from the Board of Trustees to go for $50,000. You never get that much money from the Economic Vitality Grant. They'll always decrease it, but I'm gonna go ask for that much money for what, I think you've done like 3 grant applications with this same premise. So I'm feeling very confident. It's kind of like the sustainability matching grant fund, like you always get something. Just the question becomes how much will you get? And so
Yeah.
I'll submit that tomorrow actually, and let you all know what comes of that. And then of course the amount we get, I think you all have to decide, is it us buying, stockpiling and giving, or is it like small scale grants to help people convert? And then in terms of the ordinance, I didn't have Attorney Madsen look at it back in the day because we couldn't put it into effect. So she's picked it back up It's slotted to go before the Board of Trustees at first meeting in May for their first read, with adoption by the end of May, so it's in effect by July 1.
So we'll look at it at our next meeting then.
Do you want to look at it again? Because you guys already looked at it and gave us the green light to move it forward. But happy to bring.
I
it
remember
back.
saying that it was unclear, the things about paper bags, that we had questions and that things weren't clear yet.
Okay.
Am I remembering wrong?
No, I agree.
I was not ready
I
to
don't
support
remember.
that ordinance
Okay.
as it was
Got it.
written.
There was ambiguity.
Yeah, I was not ready to support
Okay.
that.
Yes, we'll bring it back to you next month.
So then that would be like 2 weeks before, 3
Yeah.
weeks probably before that.
Yeah, because I've been wanting to bring it back and I understood that you guys were still working on it and weren't ready to bring it back to SAB yet because you were working on it.
Got it. Sorry, I clearly missed a step. No, I mean, we just we didn't want to pay our attorney to work on it if there's nowhere near a place of,
Okay,
so happy. I think there's still time to bring it down to you all
yes,
in
yes.
April. And I'll go back and review those minutes to make sure that I get them to Attorney Madsen
Mhm.
and that they.
Yeah, because I know like at the carousel, we order paper bags, but we're not sure, the type of paper bag we order, like what percentage needs to be post-consumer recyclable? Does it need to be recyclable itself? And what are all those pieces? Like, do I need to find a new supplier? Do
Yeah,
I need to go
yeah.
somewhere else, et cetera?
Right, yeah.
And we're just
yeah.
talking about paper bags. Like, I'm not a restaurant. That's the only thing I have to deal with is paper
Yeah.
bags.
Yeah, no, thanks for the reminder. Sorry, we will definitely bring that to you in April.
Okay. Solar, are we kind of on pause with that until Leah gets back?
I mean, people can sign up.
Okay.
Are they? Not really. I mean, I reached out to that guy. Asked me to reach out to the contact and you had specific questions.
Mhm.
Let me get to them. In the meantime, while I'm looking for that, what I'll tell you is actually it was kind of cool. We were invited to be a speaker at a Soul Smart presentation with the International City and County Managers Association,
Uh-huh.
talking about our Soul Smart journey. And that was super fun to just teach other communities about kind of our process, how we've moved through it.
Mhm.
We're talking with Safe Build about gold.
Mhm.
It was really fun to be a part of that. Okay, so last time we all met, Melody asked me to ask her question. So, well, first question was, the low income subscriptions through Energy Outreach Colorado are going through Pivot, and the latest update said on track to be online in February. So hoping our subscriptions are a similar timeline. That was your question. He said, this depends on when folks enrolled. I confirmed with my colleague that we do have residential solar garden, Pivot Solar 20, that came online in December. And folks that are enrolled in that garden should expect to be seeing solar bill credits applied this month or next month's electricity bills. And this was as of February. They may have hit their January bills, question mark. We asked if Pivot had staff that could attend Nederland events to promote subscription signups. And he said, because this is our only recent residential only solar garden, it's not at full capacity. And I don't think it would be a good time to promote it actively. Our enrollment process is very simple and folks can join the wait list. How many people in Nederland have signed up? This again is at the beginning of February. Leah had me run this report in December. And at this time, subscribers with Nederland zip codes were at 3.
So they're at capacity.
That's what he said. And they can join a wait list. But
I thought we had a certain amount of reserved.
I'm not
spots
the expert
for
in this
Nederland.
whatsoever. So maybe yes to waiting for Leah, because I was not involved in anything related to this.
No,
Right.
and when I
So-
moved, they told me, Excel told me that my solar, the first one that I signed up for, Renewable Connect, would transfer to my new residence. And then when I moved, they said, oh, it could take up to 3 months to make the transfer effective. And I'm going on 7 or 8 months now and they still haven't. So they owe me money. I've been paying full price for my energy for the past 8 months or whatever. I don't know. I'm frustrated with Excel with this whole process. Rab, you were gonna say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my understanding was with Pivot that it was first come, first serve. And if there were people outside the municipality of Netherlands that signed up for it, then they got that capacity.
Yeah, somehow I missed that. So we don't have a solar energy project then that people could sign up for right now.
Yeah, I mean, our website just directs, I mean, what our website says is, you know, the town of Nederland has partnered with Pivot Energy to deliver local renewable energy to our community. And then you sign up today.
But it's sounding like you can only sign up to be on a wait list to sometime hopefully get it in the future.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry, this one isn't really my world, so I wasn't really great about picking this one up. Just kind of letting it roll.
No, and since that email or whatever that I sent you that was like, I got an email that's saying these ones, because that's what I'm signed up for. And I'm still trying to figure out if they're gonna let me do both or I have to cancel both. Well, Connect, nobody's really said anything.
Okay.
But I forget what I was gonna say.
Would you like
But I haven't,
follow up? I mean,
I haven't
it's
gotten
helpful if you
any
give me
more
direction.
emails from Energy Outreach Colorado saying, yes, you're officially online and you're gonna start seeing the credit on your bill.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say. I haven't gotten that.
Do you, I mean, I know that that's kind of your specific, I mean, do you want me to do you all want me to do any sort of follow-up? While we're out, a month out from Leah coming back, which I love to.
I guess I'd just like a better understanding of like how likely are they to have solar opportunities open for people in the future? You know, like, is it worthwhile to be signing people up, or do we need to take this off our website right now and we shouldn't be sending people their direction? I think that's kind of what I need a better gauge of.
Okay. All right, I will find out, I'll email you all.
Okay.
Do you want to move on?
Yeah, the only other thing is EVs, which I don't know if there's any.
Yeah, I mean, the only good news is Excel pulled their permit, which is great for the level 3 charger. So hopefully that comes online faster.
Yeah.
Still slow on the car share. I don't know, Rich, if you're gonna connect with Peter here soon, but super slow on the car share. We met with them last week. Tom is gonna kind of serve as the, I think it's called car share captain. He's gonna like, they're basically throwing him a bunch of credits to like get it out. Like it's gotta move. I had a joke. I joked the other day that I walked in town hall and I was like, so it's so excited because it actually moved. I was like,
took it.
you took it? Thank goodness. I was like, the car is gone. And then everyone's response was, are you sure it wasn't stolen? And I was like, this is terrible. Like, that's terrible.
No, I went to go chop
So-
6 inches of ice off and the ice scraper broke on me and I
Oh.
sat there for 20 minutes defrosting the car
Oh,
because I didn't
no.
have any way to chip the ice off.
Okay, they did bring a new ice scraper. and
Yeah,
give it-
because I emailed them and was like, hey, my rental started 15 minutes ago. I'm still sitting in the car with the windshield covered in ice because this thing broke on me. You guys should get a better one.
Was it like,
Yeah,
what
they're-
to get with a rental
It
car?
wasn't, but it's like this big.
Yeah.
Whereas the one I have has like the big long
Yeah.
handle. Mine's like the $45 big long handle one, right? So it had like a nice on it. But the snow brush, I don't know if it was broken or malfunctioning or what, but it just kind of spun in a circle.
Oh, it's probably an extender.
But when I pulled it, the head just popped off.
Oh, like it didn't.
Like the head wasn't kicking in like it was supposed to. And so I'm like, okay, well, the brush isn't working. Let me turn around and use the scraper side. So I go use the scraper side and then goes off flying these orange little pieces of the scraper. And I'm like,
I'm so sorry. You could have come to town hall. We would have totally given you a different one.
I don't think there was anybody there yet. It was
Oh,
at like
shoot.
7 a.m.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
I mean, my thing was at 7:30, so it was like 7:20 that I showed
I'm
up.
just curious, outside of your brush incident, how was it?
It's okay. What I've learned about myself is I hate new cars, so I'm not a good judge of who.
Okay.
Don't ask me. how-
All right. I think that's what we need though, is we need more people to drive it though. And be like, this is awesome. Like the word of mouth has to get it out there. Now it was gone most of today, which is great.
Good.
And I'm like super excited when I see it gone.
Yeah.
Because that's where we're getting the complaints. It's like, you got this car, it's taking up a charger.
Yeah.
People are frustrated with that
Yeah.
because it just sits there.
Oh, and when I showed up, it was not plugged in.
Oh
The
my
person
God.
next to me with that black,
Mhm.
real nice black car had taken the charger out of it and put it in their car.
Every morning we have to go out and make sure it's charged.
It's that
so
it's that
irritating.
black car.
So
It's
irritating.
that real nice, fancy, expensive black one.
Yeah, that's been.
So
Sorry, Rob.
there's definitely a feature in a Tesla where you can lock the charger to the car, so it cannot be removed, and we should activate that.
This
car
is a
doesn't
Subaru.
have it.
This is a Subaru Solterra.
We asked the car share person and it doesn't have it.
A Subaru or a Hyundai?
Subaru.
It's a Subaru.
Subaru Solterra.
Yeah, it doesn't have the locking feature, Rob. We were just asking her about that.
And it doesn't have a real windshield wiper.
What? That's weird.
Does it have?
Is it just a like a heater?
There's just nothing.
No, it's got a windshield wiper. What-
On rear.
Rear.
The
On the
rear one.
rear. Oh,
I don't think you have to have a rear one.
Like a rear defroster, like the radiant heat.
I mean, I'm sure it did, but I'm talking about like this much ice, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That was all it would. But
Do
there's
we
no-
know where we're at with signups for car share?
But she was gonna send.
So
me-
far, I believe it's just Tom, because Tom had asked them too, and I spoke to Tom, and he was like, they told me it's just me, I'm the only one that's renting.
So I think it's more than Tom at this point, but still less than 10. She was gonna send me a list. I didn't
As
get
far
it
as
today.
who had rented it,
Oh, yeah, no,
So-
Tom's the only one who rented it.
not necessarily signups, but who had rented
I'm
it.
supposed to get the list from Bobby, who's our
Now-
point of contact.
Now Tom and me have rented.
Right, I mean, we have tons of, I mean, I was like, how many credits do we have? She was like, a ton. Like, we have so many credits.
Yeah.
We just need, I don't know, it was like, is it bad times to try to do in winter? I don't know, but I think it's gotta move. Like, it's gotta move. I mean, it's a free program to us. And I think for us to decide if we want to pay for it next year, it's gotta move.
Yeah,
It's gotta move,
Yeah.
but, there are issues with getting it moving.
yeah.
Being, most people up here have a car.
I know. So we're gonna promote it in Gilpin, because apparently you can go 400 miles. Like, you can, so we're gonna try to throw it out to Gilpin and say, I mean, given Gilpin's us to get here.
Yeah.
But throw it out to Gilpin, tell them we have throw it all the way out to Lyon, say, we've got this thing. Please, it's an alternative transportation, mobility for all, put it on a flyer. So
Okay.
they have a flyer that's going out that's like, don't have a car, don't worry, here are all your other options, and we're on that.
Mhm.
But we're running out of ideas. I asked the Mountaineer to do a ride along, and they refused.
They refuse.
They said no, they wouldn't do it.
Who'd you ask?
Barb and Chris, they were like, we don't have time right now, we're not gonna do it.
They don't really have time.
Do we have enough Instagram followers to do, like, can you give someone the account, or if someone tags the town, you can like reshare their story? Like, I still have to finish I have to go through the video, but it's my intent to drive it in the next one.
Yes.
But like, I'd be happy to like take some videos while I'm on my Instagram and like figure out a way to tag you, and then, when you
Yeah,
tag someone
then
and someone else could share it, I don't know. how to
Yes,
do that, but
yeah,
If someone
Peter
else
does.
can,
I'm sure Peter can figure that out. Yeah, that'd be great.
and then it's like a real person using it.
Yes.
How about when the sheriff sees someone hitchhiking, they have a little pamphlet, and they can pull over and say, hey, buddy, do you know you can do this car share thing? Now, I know,
We're actually gonna give out the cards with eco passes.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of little cards, because truth be told, a lot of people get eco passes and no one rides the bus. And so we're gonna say, oh, you could also, because the bus is not always reliable. And so we were planning to hand them out with those, thought that was a great way to promote this, is being like, you should sign up for this thing. But yeah, we're spinning our wheels at this point. Karina's doing a great job trying to push it everywhere she can, but we can't just blast Facebook all the time. We've got other things the town is doing. We can't just constantly be like, car share. Like, there's an election, there's things happening, so.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
And trying to get people to sign up ahead of time too. Like, I have a friend who lives out near me in the snowstorm, and she had no one to plow her driveway. She had to go run errands before she's going out of the country for 2 weeks, and she's like, really wanted to sign up for this, but then I realized they have to mail me a key fob. So it's not like an immediate thing. She's like, that would have been great to have, like, just pay the 5-day rental and have that car for 5 days.
So we
Or-
do have fobs at town hall.
Oh, good to know.
If it became someone's urgent, now we're trying to like
Yeah,
actively
yeah. I
promote
mean,
this,
this
we have
was
like 5.
This was like right after this.
But we do have them that you could indicate, if you wanted to email car share and say, this is urgent, Bobby would then tell us, hey, I'm activating this card, you know, Melody's gonna come in and get
Like,
it.
you don't have time for the mail.
Yeah, you don't have time for the mail,
But if they register.
and you can come get it from us.
Cause I think
But we're
that,
not making that like overly
Yeah.
known. 'cause
that can
we're-
also be kind of a holdup is like people, like they think about it when they need it, but they haven't done the.
There's
sign
some
up.
total delay.
And it takes,
We
you
just-
know, like,
yeah.
I did all the sign up, but I still have to do the video, send a photo of my license, and I just haven't.
Yeah, I think that's really for us. It's like the more people to do it, you know, Karina's gonna kind of record it. So we now are gonna like take it, as silly as it is, like take it to the post office. So at least like people are like, oh, cool, what's that? Tom actually took it to Lions today and, you know, I am relieved when I pull up to town hall and it's not there. It's like a hallelujah moment. It's like, oh, thank goodness. And we're seeing that more and more. I would say this week, probably 2 out of 4 days this week, it wasn't there. And that was such, sounds like you took it. Did you take it this week? It was on Wednesday, yeah.
Tuesday morning.
Tuesday.
When I took it.
Yeah, I mean, it was just such a relief though. I was like, thank goodness, like, it's just gotta go.
Town staff take it when they have.
Yes.
Town business.
But we don't wanna we don't pay for it, so we don't know if we wanna do that, but I told Mickey, like, drive it to Home Depot. When you need to go to Home Depot, please drive that. But then we are taking it, but at least it gets out in the world. And I just think even it just not sitting in front of that charger is like, people are like, oh, cool, someone's using it. Doesn't
Yeah.
have to see where it is in the world. It's just this like, oh, cool, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am sorry though. I mean, that's good feedback that maybe we can take care of cleaning off the snow. We don't really know when it's booked. So I'll be honest, it was just kind of like it never gets booked, so no one's like really caring about clearing off the snow.
Yeah.
And we could have definitely done that.
Well, and
For sure.
they say, you know, be prepared for that kind of stuff. And so like, I understood when I was gonna get there, I was gonna have to chip off some snow. I kind of forgot though, what snow does after it's been sitting in direct sunlight for an hour in the morning, you know, or just
Yeah.
like turned into ice.
Totally.
And so then I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll chip the ice off. But that just,
Did that work?
Yeah.
They credited you, yes, for the time you were sitting?
yeah, but the thing was free anyway, because I have the $25 free credit.
But they should have
So,
added
like,
more to your.
But so yeah,
credits.
now I'll get some extra credit.
Yeah, but I mean, if anyone wants to be like kind of an ambassador of sorts, we can get you credits, more
Yeah.
credits, so that it doesn't cost you to just take this thing out. And so I think that stays for all of SAB, you know, but Tom's definitely gonna try to drive it, probably like every other day. Tom's gonna try to get it out there and
Yeah.
out and about.
Once we get the farmer's market going, maybe we can have someone drive it, to the farmer's market.
Yes.
They can sort of sit there and they can answer questions and promote it at the farmer's market.
Yep, their outreach team was happy to do that. I was gonna chat with Lee a little bit about it, like, could she help with that? For sure, we totally agree. The farmer's market's a great place for that. And just word of mouth, like, I think just people
Yeah.
pretend like you like new cars, like for word of mouth, to be like, this thing was awesome.
Put it in the 4th of July parade.
That's a great
Wonderful.
idea. That is a
It is
great,
wonderful.
I like that. Yes.
And it wasn't as bad as some, like it's a Subaru, so it felt like it drove like a Subaru. Although, you know, getting used to an electric engine versus a gas engine can also be a thing. It just doesn't shift. I mean, it does,
Or
but it
not
doesn't.
shifting at all, if you're used to shifting, which is my.
Yeah, yeah.
Hide my left foot.
I have the Sportmatic or whatever, so I don't have a clutch, but I can shift and that's what I use like all the time. It's
Yeah.
like I'm in first and second,
You
but
don't, and then, I don't know if it's set up for one pedal driving, probably not, but one pedal driving is the best. So it's like if I get,
One
Whatever
pedal
brake.
driving?
well, no, so I do have a brake pedal, but I hardly ever use it. Because what happens with an electric car is when you take your foot off the accelerator, it brakes. So what it uses the engine's motors in the car as a sort of reverse motor. So when it brakes, essentially what it does is it charges the battery a little bit. So if I go up the hill from Boulder, it takes about 15% off of my battery. If I go down the hill, I have more than when I started. I'll have a few percent more than when I started, so.
I don't know, the whole time I was going down the canyon, it told me regenerative braking not available. You're going too fast, and I was going 45,
That's,
so I don't.
that's interesting. Maybe it's a setting.
It was also had a green light that was blinking at me, ready, 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 ready.
What was the charge?
Time travel driver, and I was like,
Oh my gosh.
like 92%.
Maybe that's why too. Sometimes when you charge them up above like 80%, they don't want to do the regenerative braking.
Yeah.
Because it's actually a lot of power that goes into the battery,
Uh-huh.
and they don't want to hurt the battery with
Mhm.
too much, so they can limit it. So when I got my truck, it was a lot, it was going down the hill was lit. Every time I hit like right around Boulder Falls, it would stop doing the regenerative. But now it does it all the way down. So they updated the settings.
Mhm.
To like throttle the power that it's.
So it is something. It is something. So I don't have that message anymore. No more regenerative braking.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna have to give myself some time when I take it out because it's so old fashioned. Like I'm like you, like new cars are just like.
No, well, and I got into it, and like, when I had to rent a car when my car broke down last year, and when I rented a car, it had like the user manual, like in the whole little screen interface, everything.
Yeah.
This one, I'm like, well, how am I supposed to figure out how to use this thing? And she told me that if you go into the CarShare app and then you go to your reserved trip and then you click on the vehicle, then there's a link to a YouTube video that you can watch to learn how to use the car.
Okay.
But I got in there and I'm scraping in, and I'm like trying to figure out, like, I can't even find the defrost button. Like, what am I supposed to do? And so I'm like, it would be helpful to have like, just like a quick start guide in there of how to use this vehicle.
Well, and that's where the farmer's market could be helpful because you,
Yeah.
like, you would want to know those things before you sign up and
Yep.
before you're in a rush and you're flustered and then you're like, oh
Yep.
my gosh, I don't know. what to do.
Yep. Oh, it took me forever to figure out the air controls,
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
blinker. Like I said, I'm like looking for the real windshield wiper for like 20
Or
minutes.
if I-
Like,
if
oh,
I
there
end up
isn't
doing,
one.
like, a video, I can try to like figure it out and then walk through it. And if you save it as like a highlight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Story.
Yeah. Yeah, for
And
sure.
then someone can sit in their car and like click through the stories.
Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, there's some things we could do to make it a little bit easier for the person
Yeah.
once they get into it. But right now, we're not even getting people to sign up. So like, that's step one.
Right. Agreed. Yeah.
Do we have any festivals coming up this
I mean,
summer?
Ned 150, Netter Days, Ned Jazz and
So-
Wine.
We're doing
Sark
something
Avatar.
on 4/27.
Yeah, Netter Days.
Yes.
On April
The
20th?
But, yeah.
Netter
the
Days
thought.
thought.
We're doing-
So whenever we do something like that, if there's enough people to warrant it, have it out, you know,
Yeah.
something like that. What is that thing on the 27th gonna be?
So it's the Netter Days. It'll be our Netter Days event. It's called the Thaw Out, where we just encourage you to go visit businesses who will have
Oh.
like different activities going on.
Oh, so there's not like,
I
Is the
think it's
carousel
the
gonna do
hot
something?
cocoa trail.
It is hot cocoa trail, but we also want people to do like all things warm related, like maybe a hot wings eating contest or something warm. It's kind of the theme is
but
that you.
it's not like a festival, you're gonna have bands.
No, that would be, yeah, the farmer's market has there too. We're holding out for Ned 150.
Stephanie just announced a Ned Jazz Wine event on
Yeah,
4/20, but that's gonna be at Boosie Brews and it's gonna be pretty small. Like, it's limited by how many people are gonna be on there.
When is Ned 150?
The first weekend in August. Uh-oh,
You won't be there.
dang, you're going to.
We'll be in Butts one.
And,
Of course.
and you know, the Mary Wingate Days is the second weekend of August. I'm like, oh darn it, just a near miss. Too bad it couldn't have been a week earlier,
Oh, shoot.
but
That's bad.
we'll figure something.
It's like, I would say that that's probably pretty too far in, that 150. A lot of work going into that. So yeah, that's car share. Thanks. Thanks in advance for all of your help getting that out. But again, it has been nice to see. I think we're getting there.
Yeah.
Because we went over 6 weeks. I don't think it moved once. I was like, this is, and then people are just yelling at us about how there's only one charger. And that was painful. Like, oh my goodness.
Well, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yes, I saw the email.
I still get that, even today. Chill.
I mean, it's not getting used a lot, and it was 92% charged when I got into it, so it was fully charged overnight when dude pulled it out to plug it into his
Yeah.
car.
Well,
You know, so
yeah.
I didn't like go running out of town hall and be like, hey, he did it, but like, you know, is there a way that like we could at least let the local people who are complaining know, like, pop into town hall, we can check to see if it's gonna be rented in the next 2 hours, and then
yeah, we
they
have,
they can use the charger at
I
least?
think that's the hard thing is like, we don't have their software. So we'd have to try to track someone down from car share.
Okay, you guys can't see the
No.
rentals.
So we don't know if it's charged renting or not. So that's the tough thing.
Yeah.
I think we've got, it's the usual people. We know who does it. Karina goes out every morning when she arrives. She makes sure it's plugged in. Every day when she leaves, she makes sure it's plugged in. It's just like, we shouldn't have to do that. But then like our team's not around on the weekends.
No.
So we're not checking Saturday, Sunday.
Well,
But
and the
Bobby
way
wants
the
to
car
keep
share,
calling us.
and the way the car show rules go is if the next person was come up and it had no charge in it, it would fall on the person who left it there, but it probably was the person who left it there that isn't the reason it's not charged, you
Right.
know, it would be
So-
somebody in the meantime.
We did talk about that. Bobby can text me, like if it was gonna get rented on the weekend, they can check the charge level. Cause they can see that. And so
Mhm.
she would always just text and say, hey, if this is getting rented in the next couple hours, like we need someone to run down there
Yeah.
and charge it. Which we do have like parks teams and
Yeah.
streets teams around on the
Okay.
weekend. So someone could go charge it. But yeah, it's a little irritating that it gets pulled every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, well, there's not really much we can do. Get the level 3s in. That's what we need. Or level what?
Well,
What do you
that
got the
was
fast
part of-
chargers? Yeah, which
That was
correct
my
it is.
part of my question for paid parking, but we don't have all those details figured out yet, is like what is enforced and what's not and by whom, you know, because something like this is in our parking lot, so are we gonna pay them to enforce that or not? You know, I know that's not our decision as set, but.
No, but you know what I would also say is I hate to say it, a little bit, what kind of got people to maybe chill out is we're like, oh, I'm sorry, you're inconvenienced by your free charger. Like right now it's free.
Yeah.
Like it's about to not be free, but how many chargers do you get to charge for free
Yeah.
publicly?
None.
Right. And so that's what we were trying to like put into perspective. Like, we're sorry you're being inconvenienced by our free charger. And they were like, oh, no. And Karina would say, yeah, we are going to charge for it. And they're like, oh, don't do that. And it's like, well, stop complaining then. Because right now you're getting a free charger, but you're mad because we use it. Like, it's stuff like that, like putting in perspective for people really got a lot of people to start to chill out. It was like,
Good.
come on, you're getting it for free.
Just so you know, level 1 charger is 15 amps
Okay.
maximum. It's essentially a plug that you would plug in just a regular wall receptacle. And then, level 2 is essentially like something you would do out of like a 220 thing, like a dryer or an oven circuit. And then the DC fast chargers is level 3. And, that's like, 14 houses worth of energy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, the level 3s can't come soon enough. I was relieved to see they pulled a permit already.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
goodness.
that is good.
Get it upgraded.
Yeah, cause
We're
we're
ready.
running on a tight time.
We're ready to go. So, yeah.
Okay. And then we don't have enough members here really, but I just kind of wanted to reliven the subcommittees. I know zero waste, was, wanted some more support, and especially while Leah's here, having a staff member that could, attend that. Knowing what we know about solar, trying to start up again on some sort of, process. Or, small group meeting that meets separately than SAB to continue pushing that forward through the summer as well. So just kind of think about as SAB members, where you feel like your strengths lie, where you want to be. Like Rich and Alan are already doing Guardians work, right? But there's some other places that we could be strengthening our momentum as we move forward into summer.
I'll be at the zero waste meeting.
Awesome.
They're like quarterly meetings, so
Awesome.
I'll be there.
I am currently the Energy Subcommittee Chair and also the only member of Energy Subcommittee. So Energy Subcommittee has not been meeting because that would be silly. So if there's any interest from
But
members
Rob,
of
I thought
staff,
on the energy subcommittee.
And I am as well.
But it was
Oh,
my
you
also
are.
holding until Leah came back, but there was not much going on holding until Leah came back, but there was not much going on for me to be hosting subcommittees for you all.
Yes.
She told me it was okay to wait.
Yes,
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think that solar and the EV fast charger are kind of outside of energy subcommittee. But
Yeah, that was I was like, I hope I'm not letting you down. That's what I was told. Like, don't worry.
oh, solar is not the energy subcommittee?
I don't think that that's been managed by energy subcommittee. But
Okay. And I'm
like
on the
it'd
solar
be,
with Chris.
Like Chris is on energy.
okay, I thought Chris wasn't a member of subcommittee, but I could be really wrong on that. Anyway,
You-
the last few meetings, it was like Corey Parton was out. He's no longer involved for whatever reason, not familiar. And then it was just Leah and I for the last couple energy subcommittee meetings. So yeah, I don't know. But yes, the spring and the summer is a great time to re-engage for all things around solar and energy. Great.
Yeah, I guess I think it's worth, trying to figure out like, is the solar program where we're pushing either community solar and or rooftop solar. I guess I thought that was the energy subcommittee, but it sounds like we're on two different understandings, because that's the committee I understood I was on with Chris, was pushing things like the Pivot Solar Energy Garden, rooftop solar, etc. So you could be correct that Chris and I are not on your subcommittee. I just thought that that was also the energy subcommittee.
Okay. Well, Leah will be back shortly, and I'm sure that she'll bring a lot of focus to these things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, maybe that's my other business. If we can go there is, unless you want to keep talking about this.
No, did we ever get minutes from Nicole?
No, Nicole said she had not had a chance to do the minutes, so you don't have
Okay,
anything.
so
to go.
yes, we can go to.
I met with Leah. Life is good. Got to meet baby Runa. Super cute. And she is set to come back on May 1st.
Okay.
So we will officially onboard her and she'll become a staff member. She'll have a town of Nederland email address. I'm thinking just sustainable. I don't know if you all have a preference, but we want to have generic emails so they carry with people. Or carry with the position. But yeah, she seems to be good. Her only concern is, of course, there's no childcare in the area. And so while she is slotted to work 30 hours, to me, it's like up to 30 and whatever that looks like, because you have a baby and life is life. We'll figure it out. And so we're just gonna kind of keep tag teaming meetings and just work on it together. It's just kind of a place of, she'll do the best she can, but her family comes first. And so I hope you all are comfortable with that. I feel very comfortable with that.
Yep.
She will, I knowing Leah and knowing kind of her work ethic, she will do everything she can.
Yeah.
And coming to these meetings, she said would not be an issue because her significant other will be home. It's just some of those daytime ones. But Erica, our old sustainability coordinator, when I couldn't make it to them, I knew Erica or someone from her team would be on. And she was great about, I was like, clue me in on whatever is Ned related, or advocate for us. And she was a great resource to us while he has been gone. And so just continue to plug into that, but happy to have her back. I think that's just the only thing I just don't know how many hours she can put in.
Yeah.
We'll play.
Yeah, because another thing that I'd like, to gear up on now as we're getting close is the Colorado Green Business Network. They have this new program now where you can sign up to be a mentor if you're already in the program, or you can sign up to get a mentor if somebody that's in the program. So Colorado Green Business can connect people with other businesses that will help them like go through that application process and everything. And I know I'm happy to do that with any local businesses that are interested as well, because I went through the process. Because that is June 30th is when that goes every year, I think, June 30th or June 1st. I think it's the 30th, but.
I can also help because we've gone through the Louisville checklist, which is kind of modeled after that. And then now we're gonna go through the Colorado Green Business this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's actually need to do that before June, even though we just did it in the fall.
I have to fill out my report.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess, and to your point on kind of the subcommittee, what I would say is like, Leah's gonna need help.
Mm-hmm.
And so reinvigorating these subcommittees and maybe revisiting that in May or maybe next month will be really helpful, because I think we just have to kind of take an all hands on deck
Yeah.
approach to her as she gets back into the swing of things.
Yep.
But she's excited to come back, and I'm glad she is able to do so. I think
Mhm.
that's great.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So we're not doing minutes.
Not doing minutes because you have no minutes.
Okay.
We have nothing to.
I thought I meant to text you.
I just wanted to,
No minutes.
so
So next month you'll do February's and March's.
Anybody else got any other items?
any public comment?
Please don't forget to vote if you are in town limits.
Just turned it over.
Hearing nothing, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:31 PM.
Not apropos of what we do, but I don't.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, May.
That they just released the latest,
Thanks, everybody.